If you're a hip-hop head, for a long time, you probably knew Donald Trump as one of rappers' favorite references.
Take over the world when I'm on my Donald Trump. Getting to the money, that Donald Trump money. Up like Donald Trump, say slang like them trucks.
Resurrection of the real, time to get richer than Trump.
I'ma fire my blunt like Donald Trump.
Boys in the hood call me Black Donald Trump.
But for most of us, that Trump has been long forgotten, replaced, of course, with this guy.
Look at my African-American over here. Look at him.
And in the last few years, a lot of rappers have changed their views too.
Trump win, I'm flying off the soil. All this bullshit make my blood boil. Obama just wasn't enough, I need some more closure. And Donald Trump is not equipped to take this country over. I'm about to turn Black Panther. Don't let Donald Trump win, that cancer.
A lot of this can be explained by his divisive politics. We certainly know more about them now than we did back then. But before his run at the presidency, Trump wasn't just liked, he was revered by hip-hop.
It's the Donald! Oh my God!
So what's behind Donald Trump's meteoric rise and fall from hip-hop grace? It all starts back in the 90s.
I'm 40, and I remember when, hip-hop, Black America, was extremely conscious, and it reflected in everything that we were doing. It reflected in the music when you had, the Public Enemies and the KRS-Ones, and, you had the brothers walking around with the Malcolm X hats and the African medallions. So we were focused on consciousness, we were focused on spirituality.
If you need to know anything about hip-hop, talk to Charlemagne the God. He's the co-host of The Breakfast Club, he's an author, and there's probably not an MC alive who he hasn't interviewed.
You don't need to meet with Trump, you yay!
Anyway, after the conscious era of hip-hop, things started to change.
But then hip-hop became about capitalism. People started making money in hip-hop. So when you start making money in hip-hop, your idols change. Ain't too many really rich black folks. So here in America, the people that they looked up to who had the money were the Donald Trumps of the world.
Okay, I get that there weren't too many black billionaires in America quite yet, but Trump certainly wasn't the only rich white guy around. Where were all the songs about Bill Gates or Warren Buffett?
I think pre-presidency to Donald Trump, that the hip-hop culture was recognizing was the hustler aspect of him, the entrepreneur side of him, the wealthy side of him. When you're riding by and you see in the buildings with the names, that's something that a young man can admire.
Rick Ross has been cranking out hits since Hustlin'. And I think what he's getting at here is that hip-hop admired Trump's opulence. Just like Ricky Rose keeps his signature Maybach catchphrase around his neck, Trump put his name on buildings, in particular buildings in New York City. Let's start at least 10, 15 years ago. Some of the artists that have mentioned him, like a Raekwon has mentioned him, a Busta Rhymes has mentioned him, an LL Cool J. What point of view were those guys coming from when speaking about Trump way pre-presidency?
Even those three rappers you mentioned, they're all New York guys. And Trump is a New York guy. And so hip-hop resonates with New York things.
Shad's a rapper too.
Damn, it feels good to be back. Damn, it feels good to be black.
And he also studies rap culture for a living. He's the host of Hip Hop Evolution on Netflix.
Hip-hop likes New York stuff, and so I think he resonated with hip-hop in that way, but also just the way that he represented capitalism in its kind of rawest, ugliest form, which hip-hop has always kind of put a mirror up to as well.
And Shad says the hip-hop community began to change its tune on Trump even before he ran for president.
I think it shifted from, again, Trump, this character, this caricature of Wall Street, corporate greed, excess, to, suddenly we get the birther movement. It's like, what's that about? Aligning with extreme right-wing white supremacist conspiracy views.
Has any artist come here to the Breakfast Club and rescinded maybe shouting him out, showing him love, spending time with him, and put him under?
Yeah, SREMMURD, with the Up Like Trump record.
Do y'all regret doing the record Up Like Trump?
No. Hey, we spoke that up, for real.
I don't. Do y'all still perform it?
No. Oh, yeah. Yeah,
well,
we
sometimes.
do.
But you know what we say? Donald
1, 2, 3.
Trump.
And everybody screaming out. Everybody screaming out, then we dropped it.
I also think there's another thing that goes on that's happening here that we're kind of talking about, which is a generational divide around aligning with power in order to make change, which also I think is part of the backlash to Trump, because that whole model of success that 50 Cent loved and Jay-Z loved and we all celebrated in hip hop is also starting to be questioned with the rise of Black Lives Matter movement, with the celebration of what Colin Kaepernick is doing. There's actually this embrace of like, maybe we need to not gain wealth and power and align with wealth and power in order to make change, but actually do something completely different and revolutionary.
Kanye West is one person in the community that has kind of put his second foot down and said, no, this is how I feel, this is what I support.
My father's a Black Panther. My mother got arrested for the sit-ins at age 6. They were fighting for us to have the right to our opinion, not the right to vote for whoever the white liberals said Black people are supposed to vote for.
Kanye, to me, kind of has that older mindset. You know, he's talked about he wants to run $1 trillion company, whereas a lot of us in hip hop that are very younger are kind of going, we just don't agree with those values so much anymore. We kind of are inspired by the Bernie Sanders mentality of maybe we shouldn't have billionaires, let alone trillionaires. As a guy that grew up on Kanye, you know, I love Kanye. I want to love Kanye. And on one hand, I understand his passion for free thinking, maybe even carving out space for Black people to disagree about politics and not just be kind of uniform in our thinking. That being said, I don't think you even have to go further than the birther movement stuff with Trump to just draw a line.
You say, you know, I'm glad Donald Trump became the president because we got to destroy before we elevate. What do you mean when you say that?
It most definitely was like, yo, if he's in office now, let's see how he handle it. And if he destroy it, I'm pretty sure he'll tear it all down and we'll have to start all over.
I'm not voting for you just because you're, you know, a Democrat or you're anti-Trump. Like, what are you specifically going to do for Black people? You know, what is your Black agenda?
The rest of the world is kind of stunned. Like, Trump is an anomaly. This is a guy who is primarily an entertainer and a guy that represented values, a lot of which are like greed and things that are generally perceived as negative, you know, in the most powerful position in the world. He's an anomaly.
Hey, NBC News viewers, thanks for checking out our YouTube channel. Subscribe by clicking on that button down here and click on any of the videos over here to watch the latest interviews, show highlights, and digital exclusives. Thanks for watching.